I'm John, and everybody has some kind of things they like to do each year, and this is what I like to do. I missed it last year. In this box, I already depackaged it. Inside here, they're praying mantis egg cases. I guess the official term of them is called utake, and you can see there's part of a twig they're attached to. There's 5 of them here, I believe. Way, you can get these available through eBay. This box here are what they call the praying mantis egg cases. Inside of these little cases, and there's 5 of them in this box, there are hundreds of praying mantis eggs. Now, there's several varieties of praying mantises you could buy through. I got these through eBay, and I can provide the link to the place where I bought this batch this year. There's 5 of them in here, and there's there's all attached to sticks. What happens is, in the fall of the year, the female praying mantis, which is remarkably bigger than the males, you can in most species, they're remarkable. They're going to lay an egg case towards the end of their life, and these egg cases are incredible on their own, because you can see they're almost impervious to the elements, and they could withstand cold, snow, and everything else. They're, like I said, you see these attached to twigs because that's where they put them on. Yeah, the cold is not going to affect these. That's what's so unique about these. They're like so ensconced, and they're so insulated and so protected. They can go through all kinds of snows and icings and everything else until spring starts to come about. And it's going to be the heat from the sun coming to transform these eggs inside this case to make them little hatchlings. Basically, they're going to emerge as tiny little replicas of a praying mantis. And I always thought this would be good if I had kids each year to engage in this yearly ritual, but I already have. Now, is there anything inside these egg cases that the developing hatchlings are going to eat? And to my knowledge, no. Basically, they have like enough fuel or enough food source within that egg that they're developing from to bring them out, at least out of the egg case. But once they emerge, here's the thing that you got to know: if you want to participate in this, you want to monitor them. When you put them, we got a paper bag here. We're going to put all these in here in this paper bag, but you can also use mesh. So also some places sell containers that are, like they're mesh. They're real fine mesh. You don't want too large because they'll merge. You basically have the little animals and little insects flying around your house, which is not a bad thing, but you want to constantly monitor the progress of these. So what you do is you put them in a bag like this, or in also a mesh bag, and you hang it someplace near a window where there's a lot of sun. And it's going to take several weeks for these to emerge. It depends on the species, but anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks developing. So right now, this is mid-March here in Michigan, 2026. So if you put them in the sun, like I'm going to plan on to do today, they'll probably hatch out around maybe end of May, early second, third week of June. Yeah, what you see here, these egg cases, the way they are attached to the stems like this, the twigs, is probably, if you're really discerning and looking for them, you're going to find them in nature. But you're going to have to go through a lot of bushes to probably find them. So that's the reason why it's so much easier to just find a place on eBay that sells them and buy them through their eBay or other online sources. They are good for pest control, but they're not really discriminating. So they'll eat any insect, even beneficial ones. So I'm not going to try to oversell them on being just devouring, bad insects or, harmful insects. They'll also, large enough ones, praying mantises can take out a hummingbird. Okay, so if you got a hummingbird feeder in your house, probably you want to forego putting these in there, because eventually if you release them in the yard, there will some remain around there, and they might take out one of your favorite little hummingbirds. So that's one thing you probably should be aware of. But these, like I said, you'd have to scour a lot of underbrush and stuff to see if you could find one of these. However, if you do release these, hatch out, you release them to your yard, and as the summer develops, they'll get bigger and bigger. And eventually you probably will find a female. There's, like I said, in most species of praying mantises, they're much larger than the male. And if you keep her in a jar with food source, you want to feed her insects and stuff, she will probably lay an egg case. And once she does that, you can retain that egg case in that container. She will pass away. There's nothing you can do about that. That's a cycle of things. But you just remove her after she passes away and keep the egg case in a freezer or a refrigerator until spring. And then you can start the process over again of setting it out in the sun. And what this is good for families, because it's good for if you are like trying to do more organic, gardening and stuff, try to take out a lot of insects. But the mere fact that these babies inside here, these hatchlings, will emerge as fully, pretty much all functioning little praying mantises. and they're going to need real small prey. They're going to need fruit flies, gnats, stuff like that initially, but they grow rapidly, and they will shed their exoskeleton until they get larger and larger, and they will grow rapidly. But that's awfully hard to supply them initially at the earlier stages with a food source, because you'd have to develop, unless you are cultivating fruit flies for some other animal like a reptile or something like that, you probably likely not have them available. So the best thing to do is release them in the wild, out in the yard. We're across the street now. We're by the river here. I tend when these do hatch to bring them some over here. There's a park down the road from here. Release some out there. I'll also keep some in my own yard. But there's going to be hundreds of these emerging from each AK. So we have 5 here. It's like, God knows how many are going to be emerging out of them. And two is, you don't have to put them in an egg, the egg cases in a bag to observe them. That's just if you just want to observe the development. You could just take them outside and put them where a sun's going to be hitting a shrub, and attach these. You could like use baggy ties and attach it to like a thicker twig or something like that. Attach it upper and lower so it stays relatively intact with the tree or the shrub, and let them get the sun, and they'll emerge. But you probably likely not see too many of them coming out unless you're there every day. But that's the reason why people are encouraged to do. Maybe you want to put 1 or 2 in a bag to watch them develop inside, and then when the rest of them hatch out, you have them outside. I don't know, but it's always something good to see them emerge, because you can see how tiny they are. But if you do keep them in the bag and you wait till they hatch out, you have to keep on monitoring it. I suggest that, because you always want to be able to release them as soon as they're hatching, because those little buggers will devour each other. And they're not too polite with each other. They're brothers and sisters, but they don't really care. That doesn't mean anything. They're not planning a reunion. So anyway, yeah, they're just remarkable how small they are going to be, and there's going to be hundreds of them, like I said, in each egg case. You might want to keep some in a bag, like I said, hatch them out. You might have some in your yard. Maybe you could show the kids a couple of these, hatching out. And if there's any comments or questions you want to ask me, of course, I could be reached through Facebook, John Brett Wilson on Facebook. You can also reach me through All Points TV on Facebook, also on YouTube, and also on Flint Talk on Facebook and YouTube as well.